Hello everyone, I am Rhoda and welcome to Rhoda Cards. Today I'm going to show you how to do a pinwheel card. It sets up like this, folds flat to go into an envelope, and then it kind of spins so you can look at 4 different panels. This is a little tag you can take out, and you can write a little greeting here. So it just kind of spins like this. And then again, you can stand it up for display. Hard to see on the camera, but let me go ahead and get started. So these are the pieces that you're going to need. Our base in the middle is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and we're going to score it at 1-inch intervals. And then we're going to put it together, and it's going to make this box that goes in the center of our card. You need 4 matte panels, which are 4 1/4 by 2 3/4, and you need 4 of these. So make sure you have 4. Now, if you take a piece of cardstock and you cut it in half, this is an 8 1/2 by 11. This is 8 1/2, and this is 11 inches here. If you take it and put it in your trimmer longwise like this, again this is the 8 1/2, and you cut it down the middle, and then you can get 4 panels out of both of these. So you can actually get 2 cards out of 1 sheet of cardstock. So if you want to make multiple cards, that makes it good. So that's the panels. Then you need some pattern paper, and the pattern paper is 4 inches by 2 1/2, and again you need 4. Now I'm using 2 different types of pattern paper because I wanted to alternate the patterns. So I just used 2 sheets of 2 different patterns. But if you want to use the same pattern paper, just make 4 pieces of that. And then I had some, when I cut those, I had these little extra strips. And they are 4 by 1 inch. You can make these a little bit wider. I'll show you when we start putting the card together. You can make these a little bit wider. They don't have to be 1 inch. They can be wider than that. This is what I had when I cut the other pieces, so I'm going to use them. I like to use up scrap pieces instead of throwing them away, so I'm just going to use those. Now, if you want to make the little tag pouch here to put the little tag in, I made this little piece 2 1/4 by 1 1/2. You don't have to make it for a tag. You can just put something else on it if you want to. That's just what I'm doing, so I'm going to include those measurements. And this is the tag itself, and it's 2 3/4 by 1 1/2. That's the tag. And then I stamped and punched out these sentiments that I'm going to put inside it. I stamped them out and then just used a 2-inch punch to punch them out. And then used some markers and just colored them a little bit. I did that off camera, so it would be easy enough to just put this together. I'm going to go ahead and get the scoreboard and show you how to score the base. And this is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So you can get 4 of these out of an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet of cardstock as well. If you put it in sideways, again, long ways down, and cut it at 4 1/4, it gives you 2 strips, and then just turn it, cut it at 4 1/4, and you get 4 of them. So we're going to score this at 1-inch intervals. So 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4. And that's going to give you this little 1/4 of an inch piece right at the end. If you can see that 1/4 of an inch piece right there. So that's our scoring. And now you want to burnish these score lines. And I just started with the little 1/4 of an inch one here. And burnish that down really good. And then I just burnished the other ones. And I wanted this to move very easily because you flip it and whoever you give it to is going to do it a lot. So what I did was I just burnished it both directions so that it would move very easily. Okay. So that's what that looks like, and you've got this one little quarter piece up here. Move that out of the way there. And I used liquid glue on this so it would hold really well, because again, whoever you give these to, they're going to move it a lot because it's fun. It's a fun thing. So I put some liquid glue right up here on this 1/4 inch strip, and then I just took this, folded it in half, and it reaches right up at the top, and then I just folded down that little quarter piece and just held that down for a few seconds so it would dry. And now we have our box piece that goes on the inside. That's what it looks like. It's a 1-inch box. Okay. Put my pin back in my glue. And then we're going to go ahead and glue these pieces down. So there's our mat and our 4 panels. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the panels onto here. And I'm going to just use tape runner for these. And you can use different colored cardstock if you want to, depending upon what pattern paper that you have. You can use coordinating colored cardstock. You don't have to use white for the square piece, the base in the middle. You can use different colored cardstock for that. You can coordinate it with the with the pattern paper that you're using. I used white just because the snowflakes on here were white and it matched the white cardstock. So that's why I used white, because I liked that look. But use whatever color you want. I made some Halloween cards this style. You can make birthday cards. It would be good for any type of card. I liked it for Christmas because you can stand it up and display it. And for Christmas, I think people display their cards. So I think that's really cool. So now what I'm going to do is I just take the glue and I put it right here on the base on this box. And then I take this piece and I just line it up right along the edge there. Hold that down for a few seconds. And then I flip it to make sure that it's gonna stay. And then I flip that up and I'm gonna put the other one in. Now I alternated. So this one's red, so I'm gonna put the green one here and alternate the colors. Again, you just put this right down on there, line it up, and press. Now you'd make sure that you don't go over that scored line there, because if you go over it, this won't fit down on top of it like that. You want to make sure that it's going to flip like that. So make sure that you don't go over that scored line. Now that was green, so I'm going to put a red one down next. The next one, line it up, press down. And then the next one, we got 3 on here. The next one will be the last green one. This card is really simple. Somebody sent me one of these cards and I just thought it was really, really cool. And so I had to make some of these, so I figured out how to make some. I had never seen this design before, so I had to make some, and I just thought that was super cool. So there's the base part. Now we have these little strips, and they coordinate. They're the same pattern as the ones on here. So what I did was I just alternated this base red. I put the green next to it, so you've got green here and green here. That's just what I did to do that. And I just line this up here. Okay, and then we flip it, and I'm going to put a red one. And I just alternated these just like I alternated the bigger sheet. And I used, these were actually scraps of paper that I had in my stash from making another project, and the size worked out great. So I'm using a lot of scraps. So this is a good way to use up maybe some scraps that you have in your stash. Because I tend to hold on to everything. I keep all my scraps, and they just keep piling up and piling up, so it's nice to be able to use some scraps. And then this piece will go right there. So now we have that. We'll put these and the little tag. Now I made this little tag. It's 2 3/4 by 1 1/2, and I used my crocodile to punch the little angles in the corners, and then I used a hole punch to punch the hole in the tag, and then I stamped on it, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." And I'm going to put that probably on this one because the Mary is in red and that's green paper. So I really like traditional Christmas colors, so I'm going to put the red Mary on the green background. And then this is the little piece that I'm going to put here to put the tag in. Now I'm just putting this as white cardstock. That way you can write a message on here, you can sign it, or whatever. So that's why I'm using white. You can use a different color of cardstock. You can use the same pattern paper, different pattern paper, whatever you want to do. I'm just using white so you can sign it or write a message or whatever. Now when you glue this down, make sure that you only glue along the very edges of the side and right along the bottom, because you want to have room to tuck this in and not hit the glue. So you want to make sure you have enough room to put the tag in there. So I just glued that on. Again, just glue the sides and the very, very bottom. So that way this can go right in there. Now if you wanted to make this pattern paper or something else, you can always just use the back of the tag to sign or write your sentiment or whatever. Now since I put a hole in this, I had to put something in there, and I had these, they're little twist ties. I get these little bags from Dollar Tree, and they come with these twist ties, and I have a drawer full of these things. And so I'm like, well, what can I do? How can I use these twist ties? So when I made these little tags, I was thinking to put ribbon in it, but I just had these twist ties sitting here, and I was like, oh, well, you know what? I can use these twist ties on these tags. You just put it through the hole, pull it up, give it a couple of twists, and there you go. Look at that. And that uses up some of those little twist ties. You can kind of bend this down a little bit so that it doesn't go above the top of your card if anything goes above the top there, it won't fit into a regular envelope. So just kind of keep that in mind. So that's why I bent that and turned it sideways. So now we can flip this and we can add our other little sentiments. And I used 4 different sentiments because the pattern paper didn't have any writing on it. So I was like, it's got 4 different mats on it, so I can add 4 different sentiments. So I looked for a stamp set that had 4 different sentiments so that I could do that. So we'll just put 1 on each mat. And I'm just using tape runner for this. You can use liquid glue or whatever adhesive that you have. And I just put 1 on each mat here. And I just centered it. Depending upon what you're putting on here, you could put it more to the top or the bottom, or, you know, however you wanted to do that. But I just thought this was a very cool card. Super easy to put together. Actually very quick to put together. And you can make a bunch of them if you want to, send out to all your family. It's something a little different. So, and that's pretty much it. The little tag here that you can take out and put in. And then you can flip and see the other sentiments. Now if you wanted to be, if you wanted to make maybe this a little bit smaller and then mat as another circle behind it, you could use die cuts on here, you could use stickers on here. I have some paper pads with different little things in it that I cut out. I mean, you could put some of these on here. I punched out some little snowmen out of the paper. I mean, you can do all kinds of things with this. You don't have to stamp, and I like stamping, so I did, but you don't have to stamp. You can do all kinds of things. Let your imagination run wild. And here's the one that I showed you earlier. It's basically the same. It's just using different color paper. So I hope you enjoyed this little pinwheel card. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you give it a chance. Try to make some yourself. Thank you for joining me today for this tutorial. I really appreciate it. And I will see you at the next one. Bye.